You guys hold me to it. By Christmas, we gotta get that kitchen done. We're back in the future, and it is now December 20th, and unfortunately, that is not a kitchen reveal. I have been working really, really hard, and I just failed. So this is reality, not a scripted show. I'll talk a little bit more about the setbacks, why they happen, what I learned from them later in the video, but it is the holiday season, and I think it's important to try to focus on the positive things. I have made some progress, and more importantly, all you guys out there that have been following, supporting everything I do through all the ups and downs, I think you guys deserve a video for the holidays. So even though we're not ready for the big kitchen reveal, there are a lot of progress updates to share. When we left off last time, we just moved all the cabinet carcasses up from the shop to the kitchen. We just kind of threw them there, set them in place, left them. So first up, we got to permanently install them, and the process is kind of interesting and a little different than what you're used to because these are European style cabinets. So first up, I have to explain what European style cabinets are. And this will also answer the what about the toe kicks question that I got like literally hundreds of comments about that in the last video. It looked like the cabinets were just kind of sitting on the floor with no toe kick. We are gonna have a toe kick.
Oh, thank God.
And that's where these adjustable leg levelers come in. So with the European style cabinet, you don't have the little notch in the sides and part of the cabinet that extends all the way to the floor and it rests on. You just have a box, and that box then sits on these little adjustable leveling feet, and you kind of just twist them to adjust the height. These are great because it just makes leveling so much easier, no shims or anything like that to mess with. And this system is also what allows you to attach the toe kick. So these legs have a little clip that will attach to the toe kick and just clips right on. So you have the toe kick attached to that. There are some big advantages in my mind to using that system. One, it allows you to have a toe kick that's really long and extends across all the cabinets with one piece. Also, with those clips, you can remove the toe kick to access underneath the cabinets. For you neat freaks out there, you can dust and vacuum underneath the cabinets. You can also access any electrical or plumbing that's underneath the cabinet as well. Very cool system. That's what we're gonna go with. That's why you didn't see any toe kicks in the last video. So installing the leveling legs is super easy. They've got the leg part and then a mating part for the cabinet. The mating part attaches to the cabinet. It's got this little post. You drill a hole into the cabinet, put the post in, then you got 4 screws that go through the sides. Then you just pop the legs in and you're good to go. By the way, this is the completely wrong type of drill bit to be using. What you're supposed to have is a 15mm brad point bit. They're actually pretty difficult to find here in the US. This is a spade bit. These things are made for just ripping material up, so unfortunately, the underside of the cabinets, the hole is going to be a little bit ugly, but I've got people coming tomorrow to help me install the cabinets against the walls, so I'm just making do with the spade bit. We just got to keep the ball moving forward here. While I'm installing the leveling legs, Kat is actually going behind me as I pull the cabinets out from the wall and rolling on a coat of primer. There she is. Some people commented and suggested I look into primer on these walls. I actually wasn't going to put them on because, well, you're never going to see these walls. There's going to be tile on the backsplash, and so I just was like, why spend the time on primer? Kat, you looked into it after some comments on that. Tell us why we want to put the primer on.
I did a little research.
Don't do that.
People were claiming that if you don't prime your drywall, that paper is going to absorb moisture. It's going to absorb vapors and smells.
Did someone say it was like smelled like a restaurant that looked like it had rats?
Somebody said your kitchen will end up smelling like a greasy spoon.
So moral of the story is that even if you're never going to see the drywall behind your kitchen cabinets, put some primer on them.
Now we work together. You know, teamwork.
It is cabinet install today, and I've got some help. My buddy Stu from West Chicago is here. Stu does custom furniture, lighting, and he's definitely installed a few cabinets in his day. You can check out his Instagram. There'll be a link in the description to that. Very cool stuff. But today we're going to put some of his experience installing cabinets to work. So if this goes wrong, then it's like completely your fault.
Totally, yeah.
Just kidding. Let's talk about the plan. Since these are European style cabinets and we've got those nice adjustable leveling feet, we're going to do it a little different than you normally would, in that we're not going to attach it to the walls first. What we're going to do is get the whole row of cabinets in across the back wall, level the feet, then actually screw the cabinets to each other so everything is flush and level, freestanding. Then we're going to shim the backs, put some screws through the cabinets into the studs behind it to secure them. But that is the last step after everything's sort of freestanding, locked and loaded, all level. So these wires we're pulling through here are going to allow us to run under cabinet LEDs over here. It's not tight, but it fits. So you might have noticed there's something different about the sides of two of those tall cabinets. The exterior parts of those that are exposed now have a matte black side, which is the same material as the edge banding and the doors. So I want to show you the process of adding that, because quite honestly, it was something that seemed really simple in my head to do. Just cut a 1/4 inch out of a big square panel, take a 1/4 inch panel with the black exterior and glue it to that 1/4 inch recess I just cut. Easy peasy, and we're going. Well, 2-3 days later, here we are. And this sort of thing happens a lot, where something seems really easy and turns out to be a really complex task. So I think it'll be interesting to share. So the first hiccup was when I got the black panel. I guess I just assumed that the black would be on one side and the other side would just be like an MDF. Well, when I got it, it was black on both sides. And you can't glue this sort of plastic material to wood. It just doesn't stick. So the first task is to write a little program to take exactly 3/100ths of an inch off of this whole panel on the CNC so that I remove just that black surface from one side. And because this needs to be exactly the same thickness after I take the layer off, I have to make sure that this is perfectly flat against the table when I'm cutting it. And that means painstakingly covering the entire bottom with double-sided tape, pressing it down super firm so there aren't any parts that are popping up from the table when it's being cut. Since we took the melamine off, that changed the thickness of that board, so I have to measure the precise thickness of it with these calipers, and then write another little program for the CNC to cut a recess in the cabinet side panel at exactly the depth that is equal to the thickness of that black melamine panel, plus about 2/100ths of an inch to allow room for the glue to bond the two layers. Moment of truth. Let's see if it matches up. Ooh, yeah, that is pretty good. That is pretty good. That'll do. I ordered these panels a little oversized so I could trim them to be a perfect fit. And I'm gonna start by just taking off the bulk of the material here at the table saw. And then after the glue up, I'll come back with a flush trim bit on the router to get the edges perfectly flush all the way around. Back in the garage, it's time to do the glue up. Trying to get even clamping pressure on a large panel glue up like this is always challenging. So I use support from below and cawls across the top, and also basically just threw every heavy thing I could find in my workshop and even my weights on top of that, just to try and get even pressure distributed across the surface. This workshop has thousands of dollars of tools and probably hundreds of clamps, and yet my glue up looks like trash. I'd say that's a job well done. Before we go further, a quick message from this video's amazing sponsor, SimpliSafe. Last month, I told you about SimpliSafe's incredible Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales. If you missed those, don't worry too much. SimpliSafe has you covered with their holiday sales, 40% off their award-winning security systems. I've had their system installed since I bought the building, and there's a reason that they've sponsored more videos than any other sponsor. It's because I love their security system, and I trust it to keep me and the building safe. Their system includes sensors to cover every room, door, and window in your house, and HD cameras for indoors and out. The system is incredibly easy to install. When I first installed everything, the whole thing was up and running in about 45 minutes. And once it's set up, SimpliSafe's 24/7 monitoring service has you covered. If anything happens in your home, the monitoring service calls the authorities immediately. And that's great and all, but only if it doesn't bankrupt you. And I've got good news there, because SimpliSafe's monitoring service starts off at just 50 cents a day. Now, if you're putting together a new SimpliSafe system or already have one, I highly recommend adding their new wireless outdoor security camera. It's got an ultra-wide 140-degree field of view, as well as a motion-sensing spotlight and night vision, so it captures everything. And it has a two-way intercom feature that lets you talk to people outside via an app on your phone while you are inside the safety of your own home. So give yourself or a loved one the gift of home security this holiday season. Head to simplisafe.com/Minustrial or follow the link in the video description below to get 40% off of your SimpliSafe system. When you support a sponsor of this channel, you are also supporting the channel. So thank you in advance if you do check that out. Much love to SimpliSafe for being a long-term supporter of everything we're doing here in this community. And now back to the video. Off camera, I went ahead and got the edge banding on these Frankenstein panels. And I think you guys had enough edge banding in the last two videos, so I spared you the time of watching it. I do have a couple problems though. The first one is that I'm impatient and I want to peel the tape off of the panels so bad to see what they look like. But I know the smart thing is to leave it on there until it gets installed. So that's what I'm gonna do. And the second thing is a little bit more serious. I use the Conformat screws to assemble these cabinets, and those go through the exterior. So if I use those here, they'd be going right through the black panel, and you'd see them on the exterior. Why did I go through all this work if you're just gonna see screw holes in that beautiful matte black surface? But I think there is a fairly simple solution. Drill some pocket hole screws that'll be on the back side of the cabinet so you won't see them, and then we will have a totally clean surface. We are so excited to get those in place. We almost forgot to do probably the most satisfying part of the whole thing. Peeling the plastic off. Come on, what was I thinking? So I told Stu if he had any crazy cabinet install tricks to bring whatever he needed for him. He brought this thing, which is basically like a tripod, but it's super heavy duty metal. And it's got just a little pad up here that you can screw right into. And we're just making a little platform. The fridge is gonna go right there. Jack the cabinet that's gonna span above the fridge. Jack it up so it'll be really easy to screw into the two cabinets next to it. we're making progress, slow and steady. We got this whole wall of cabinets to come in. Now we got to move on to doing the base cabinets along this wall, and we got to pick up the pace because it's kind of getting late at night here. So you don't need any sleep, right? We just go all night. We're busting out the big boys, get the hole saw to cut the hole for the drain pipe. Precision, accuracy, all those things. There we go. Look at that. Perfect fit. I'm rolling solo today, but I think we knocked out the hardest part yesterday when we got the full wall of cabinets, all plumb flush, all that good stuff. All that's left for me to do now is install the 8 island cabinets and get those all plumb and flush and parallel to both of the runs of cabinets that are on the wall. So I've kind of got a 4-step plan for this. First, I take the one corner cabinet and make sure it is level and even with the cabinets across from it. Then I take the second in cabinet on the back side of the island and I'm gonna get that level plumb and flush to the first one. Now I got the 2 end cabinets operating in a unit. I can shift those a little bit, get them perfectly parallel to the runs of cabinets here and here. So after I get the end cabinets now function as a unit, parallel to the wall runs of cabinets, plumb and flush and all that, then I can install all the other 6 cabinets, and then your island will be perfectly level and perfectly positioned with respect to the rest of the elements in the kitchen. With the European cabinets, we pretty much installed them to be freestanding, but I'm all for belts and suspenders, especially on these tall pantries. I want to make sure there's 0 chance that they tip over ever, and I also just want to lock them where they are, where everything is perfectly level. So what we need to do is screw these cabinets into the studs. First, we just use a stud finder to find the studs and mark where they are. Once I know where the studs are, I'm going to use some scraps from building the cabinets and some shims to shim the cabinets, lock them in, drive some screws through the back of the cabinets into the studs, and that'll lock them in really nice. Next up, we install the Bloom undermount drawer slides, and these are super simple to install. First step is just pre-drilling holes in the actual drawer. For that, I've got this handy little jig where we drill 2 holes in the front for each of these little clips, which is what attaches the drawer to the drawer slide. And it includes 2 other holes for pre-drilling holes in the back, which the drawer slide will hook into to pull it forward. By the way, these drawer slides, the jig, and all the hardware I'm using are available from ROCKLER. I'll leave a link in the description if you're interested. So here's a little trick for installing these. It could be a little tricky if you're trying to like hold this with one hand and reach around and screw in with the other hand. But if you got your holes pre-drilled like I do, all you do is slide the drawer slide all the way out, full extension, and the weight is balanced really nicely so that you can just kind of hold it with one finger. Makes it easy to screw in the back screw first, and then it's locked in. And I also don't screw the back one in all the way, so I have a little bit of play to get the front and middle one in. After I get all 3 of them driven about 80% of the way in, then I come back and lock them in all the way. I wanted to get these cabinets in just to test and verify that everything was fitting properly. I'm not going to install the rest of the drawers right now because it's much easier to install the countertops when you can reach around from below and access them to shim them up or whatever you need. We've now reached the point where I'd hoped to show you the installation of those beautiful drawers and door fronts that we manufactured at Rehow in the last video. But as you saw at the beginning of this video, we aren't there yet. This is actually kind of a cascade of a number of potentially unrelated seeming things that snowballed to create a major setback. It starts with these supply chain issues that are ongoing in so many different industries. Because of delays getting a lot of the kitchen hardware, I didn't have any of it on hand when I was making all the cabinet carcasses, and that meant I was designing everything around specs, the values and dimensions that I had on paper. And especially for me, that is just really challenging. I like to see and touch things and try to just put them together and see how they work before my brain really wraps its mind around it. And I tried to be really, really careful and triple checked everything, but I still missed one thing that caused a big problem. It has to do with the leveling feet. When I read the specs for these, it said they provided for about 2.5 inches of adjustability, and that the minimum height, I thought, said 3 1/16 inch, which fit perfectly with my plan to have lower than standard toe kicks that were only 3 inches instead of the standard 4. So right when I got these and started putting them on, back at the beginning of this video, noticed they didn't go to 3 1/16 inch. And I took a look at the specs and it said, not 3 1/16, 3 11/16 of an inch was the minimum height. That meant all the cabinets I just made, was already done making, all would be sitting about 3/4 of an inch higher than I expected. That means the countertops are unfortunately going to be a little higher than the standard 36 inches. But the bigger problem was that these tall cabinets behind me here go all the way up to the ducts. And I'd given myself a 1/2 inch clearance for any errors just in case. That wasn't enough. So those tall cabinets no longer fit once I put these leveling feet on. So that meant I had to remake some of the parts for those tall cabinets, take everything apart, take them downstairs, reassemble them. That took me about 3 days. The wall cabinet over the fridge was then too low and didn't allow the fridge to fit underneath it. I had to remake some parts for that, reassemble it. That took another day. And then, of course, I realized that, well, the cabinet sizes had changed. That meant that a number of the doors that had been manufactured were no longer going to fit. So now I'm waiting on those doors to be remanufactured. That's why we don't have any doors and why a lot of this took longer than expected. My mistake, but you know, doing everything exactly perfect the first time you do it, even when you try your best, sometimes mistakes like that are gonna happen. You just gotta learn from them. Now you might be saying, I hear you, there were delays, but couldn't you have been doing something else and making more progress? Well, you're right, I could, and I did. Kat and I went out to Fishstone Concrete last week and we fabricated all the concrete countertops. You know what, it's the holidays, so let's do a little sneak peek of that since we got the footage. Now I can't show you the finished product because, well, I gotta save a little bit of suspense for the next video, but I'm telling you, if you don't think concrete countertops can look high-end, just wait, just give it a chance. I think I might surprise you. So if you haven't already, make sure you sub, bell, all that sort of good stuff to follow along. Much love to all of you out there for supporting me on this journey, as it has dragged on longer than I expected, but certainly been a lot of fun. Happy holidays to everybody out there. That is it for this time, and I will see you next time.